conclude, actually, that had the Western forces agreed some sort of territorial integrity in exchange for trials on cases of crime against humanity, we might be talking about a very different history. Acknowledging historic wrongdoing and Armenian genocide could be a part of Turkish history. Today, we can say that the court-martial in Istanbul is a symbol of these two interwoven but distinct strands of Turkish history. Territory and borders, or expressed another way, national security on the one side, and human rights, or facing history and addressing historic wrongdoings on the other. The fact is that the attempt at dismemberment and partition of a state as a form of a punishment for the atrocities committed during the war years and proposed punishment of its national leaders for seeking the territorial integrity of their states created a mindset in Turkey today that views and references to historic wrongdoings in the past as an issue of national security. A product of this mindset is therefore a belief that democratization, freedom of thought, and freedom of speech, open and frank debate about history, acknowledgement of one's past historic misdeeds, considered as a threat to national security. Those like myself, who invite the society to engage in an open examination of the past, are therefore labeled traitors and made target of severe campaigns, are dragged into court and prosecuted under the Turkish Criminal Code, Article 301, for insulting Turkishness. It is this kind of mindset that was behind the murder of Hrant Dink. Review Turkish history from this perspective, reveals four important new perspectives for us. First, Mustafa Kemal's condemnation of the Armenian massacre diametrically opposed to the current official denial policy. Kemal's position during these war years, we might not find it enough and good, but it could be a good starting point for the Turkish state. They should start calling 1915 as a shameful act, as their leaders defined 1920. It could be a good process for negotiation, talking, and reconciliation. Second, until now, Turkish-Armenian problem has been perceived within the old paradigm which produced the conflicts, namely the collapse of Ottoman Empire and the clashes of different ethnic or national groups over land and boundaries. So, my argument is we have to start rethinking on that issue, and we have to reposition Turkish-Armenian conflict within the new paradigm, what we call transitional justice. That is a part of democratization effort within the existing nation states in Turkey and in Armenia. This conflict should not be regarded or disputed as a territorial dispute, but rather as a human rights issue, as a problem of historic injustices that must be rectified in order to establish a just and a democratic society. Thirdly, based on that, Turkish national security concept must totally revise and change. The main flaw of this concept is its perception that the promotion of basic democratic rights, such as equality under law and social reforms and freedom of speech, are a threat to national security. So, this is very important. In the past, the emergence of the so-called Armenian question was the result of Armenian demands for equality and for social reforms, which arguably would have led to a better Ottoman society. Their demands and the Armenians themselves were considered as a security threat by Ottomans, which led to them being targeted for massacres and deportation. Today, the demand for an honest account of history is being handled in the same way as a security problem. The irony is that criminalizing historical injustices for national security reasons is not only a huge obstacle on the path to democracy, but also is counterproductive and leads directly to real security problems for the Turkish state. The self-fulfilling prophecy, it is called, can be shown not only in the Armenian genocide of the past, but in the Kurdish problem today. Just as the Armenians and their social and political demands for a more just society were considered a threat in the past, a democratic future for Kurds today is also considered a threat to security. So, instead of solving Kurdish problem by seeking solutions that would lead to a more democratic society, the old, I would argue, now useless security concept has been resurrected and has declared that the Kurdish demands are essentially a security problem for the Turkish nation. As long as, this is then my last argument, as long as Turkey continues to regard moral principles, one of which is facing historic injustices with honesty and national security, as two opposing poles that are mutually exclusive and refuses to come to terms with the past for national security reasons, indeed, as long as Turkey's national security is defined in opposition to an honest historical reckoning, further problems will be created in Turkey. So, there is a security aspect for the Middle East. A non-democratic, authoritarian Turkey creates more security problem than it solves when it makes the consistent denial of historical injustices an integral part of its security policy. It is exactly this attitude that delays not only democratization in the region, it also destabilizes relationship in the volatile Middle East. You cannot solve any problem in the Middle East today without addressing historic wrongdoings, because history is not something in the past. Past is the present in the Middle East today. So, my conclusion is that Turkey should stop to bully around and threat other countries who wants to acknowledge the Armenian genocide, and only acknowledgement of an historic wrongdoing, acknowledgement of Armenian genocide, paved the way for Turkey for a democratic, secure future for the region. Thank you very much for listening.